Okay.
We're now live.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Hauk, and I am the chair of this committee. And I would like to welcome you all to the South Area Committee taking place on 5th of September at 7 p.m. That is now. We have received apologies from City Councillor Flowbird. I will roll call councillors alphabetically by surname to ensure they are present. So please advise if you know of any apologies from other councillors. Are you present, Councillor Hauk? Yes. Councillor Page Croft?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Ashton?
Can I just say, I just got a text from Councillor Ashton that his wife has had to go to hospital, so he might come back on later.
Okay, I hope everything will be fine. Thank you very much. Councillor Davies?
Hello.
Councillor Dryden?
Here.
Councillor Lee?
Here.
And can I just take this opportunity to say not only do we have a new Prime Minister, so we also have a new councillor on the committee today. Welcome, Councillor Levine. We'll try to be gentle the first time round. Councillor Macpherson. I'm assuming he's not present. I can't see him on the list either. He may still join later. County Councillor Beckett. He is present. He was there a minute ago. Councillor Goodlife.
Present.
And Councillor Slatter.
Yeah.
And the officers permanently at the table for this meeting are Area Committee Lead Officer Dave Princer, Committee Manager Gary Clift, who is also the meeting producer tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. And other officers and public speakers will join us where appropriate throughout the meeting. And I will introduce them then. If anyone has any problems hearing me throughout the meeting, please alert me by waving your hands or typing in the meeting chat function. There are still a few housekeeping items to go through. You can find the agenda online. Can I ask all participants to mute themselves unless they want to speak or they are actually asked to speak. If you would like to ask a question as a member of the public, then you can type speak in the chat function. Please try to be specific and concise with your question. This meeting is automatically recorded, so nothing here is confidential. And the meeting is broadcast live via the council's website. And by appearing in this meeting, you are giving consent to being recorded. And the process for each agenda item will be the relevant officer will give a brief introduction. Then councillors and member of the public can ask questions and make comments. And the committee manager will check the Democratic Services email inbox routinely to check whether there have been any new questions or comments there. It's possible to have short comfort breaks, but actually I'm hoping that we can get through the meeting relatively quickly, so I don't think it will be necessary, but by all means, if you need a break, then please alert me. Councillor Levine.
Yes, hello. I just worked out the mute and unmute function.
Good, but your hand is up.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I clicked on it instead of, right. I clicked on it instead of the unmute. Apologies.
Yeah, you actually figured out more than you thought there. It's a common mistake if you raise your hand, to then forget to take it down. So let me also remind you of, of that. Okay, so now we can move on to agenda item 2 if there are no more comments. Could councillors please declare if they have any declarations of interest to make and also identify which report their declaration relates to. If there is, okay, in that case, I'm assuming there are no declarations of interest, and we can move on to agenda item 3. And these are the notes of the 21st of June meeting. If there are any concerns about correctness or anything that's been omitted, then please let us know now. As you all know by now, the area committees can't make any decisions because we're not meeting in person, but it's more on a information basis. But anyway, it should obviously be correct. So then we can move on to agenda 4, since I don't see any hands up. Matters arising. So let's maybe just go briefly get through this. Oh, actually, I realized. Yes. I'm sorry, I think I messed up my document here. Okay, here we go. So there was a comment that we would invite a representative from the Cambridge Biomedical Campus, and I'm happy to say, oh, Councillor Davies, sorry, before I keep talking.
Thank you, Chair. Just to comment that looking back over the minutes, there was what looks like an action in relating to question 2 about the demolition of 1 to 2 Fitzwilliam Road and the preservation of the glass there. That the action identified was for the principal planner to discuss the situation with the applicant and let presumably committee know. That isn't reflected in the action sheet. So obviously we don't know what the status of that is, but can we add it to the action sheet to make sure that point is not lost? Thank you.
Okay, I'll take note of that. Okay, otherwise, let's go through what is actually on the action sheet. So I'm happy to say we have representatives from the Cambridge Biomedical Campus here. That's Christine Ann and Tony, and they will present and later, I think it's agenda item 7. Thank you very much for joining us. There was something, Councillor Beckett was asked to respond to a question from a member of the public. Councillor Beckett, would you like to respond now? Okay, maybe he's not listening. I mean, it says to be continued here. I'm sure it's work in progress. I think the abode, I mean, there's an action item, Councillor Hauck and Trumpington ward councillors in terms of the abode development. I think there's another public question today, and we've had responses from council officers on that. So maybe I'll simply wait till later when it will come up. There is the issue about naming bridges around in the new developments of Trumpington. I mean, is there an update on that, Councillor Slatter? Have you?
Partly. I've not been contacted by anybody from the planning department, but then I don't really want to overload them with something that is really quite local. But I am finding out through the county council how to do an online survey, and hoping that in due course we can indeed have a nice sort of public consultation on what to call bridges. So hopefully I can report in later. But I don't want it to be something that the officers have to tussle with. It's more of local interest, and I'm sure we can sort it out amongst ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think Wendy Johnson is present tonight, so there were 2 action points, but we've had responses to some of the issues that were raised. We also had responses to items of encroaching vegetation and bins at Cherry Hinton Recreation Ground, so I'm assuming this is okay for now. So as far as I can tell, we've now dealt with the action points arising from the previous minutes. If anyone else would like to make any comments at this stage, then please do so now. If that's not the case, then we can move on to agenda item 5, the open forum. We've had, as far as I can tell, 2 questions submitted, unless this has changed very recently. And I would just like to check first whether Kevin, who submitted one of the questions, is present. But I don't think that's the case. So Kevin asked a question about an update on the current state of the abode of the adoption of the abode development, and specifically about the replacement of the trees and shrubberies that Countryside are obligated to maintain and replace. And he would like an answer to a previous question from July 2022 regarding insufficient construction of curbs in the abode development. So we did have a reply from David Malia on this. I'm not sure if I should read it in full if the resident is not present, but it will be in the minutes for everybody to read. So one of the recommendations is the best place to answer queries on individual trees, curbs and highway is not necessarily the committee, but I think he actually refers to the county council, if I'm not mistaken. So highway issues are for the county council. The city council will have responsibility for trees and street lights, and he points out that operational queries regarding these areas can be reported to the city council customer service in the usual way. And there is a plan for general estate management areas, so I guess that will be available on request. And in general, I mean, it's just something to follow up in the future, maybe if we get more specific questions on these issues. I mean, does anyone like to make any additional comments on this item? If that's not the case, then we can move on to the next question. I don't think Della is around either. So we had a question from Della Wexler about the Hobson Square structure, or the sculpture. I don't know how to best describe it. And it is basically the question, what is this structure about? Because apparently to some people it looks not as attractive as it was probably intended by the original constructors. And also there's simply no information about this structure on the square. So she asks whether it's possible to at least provide some background information and inform the public. So if it's supposed to be public art, then also provide some information to the public. I can see Councillor Slatter has her hand up.
Yes, it so happened I had two residents during recent weeks bringing up this very same subject, particularly centred on Hobson Square, where there is some quite spectacular public art, but also some public art that a lot of people aren't aware of. And yet a great deal of thought went into preserving the footprints, as it were, of our predecessors in that land, because that's where the archaeologists found a few features. And we do really want to have something available for the public, both on site in the form of a small plaque, and then preferably in more detail online. This was part of the public art undertaking in the beginning, and it should be delivered. And that is the matter, I think, for planning to follow up. And your notes may well include the artists in question, who, their work should be attributed to them and described a little, but also they should be paying up because they got the money for doing the public art. So this should not just be left. There is money owing to the public, and it should be spent as it was intended in some sort of explanatory provision. And so I will bang on about this again if we can't get some progress. But there's so many great things around Trumpington, and it's lovely when people do know, and you hear people explaining things to their kids. Oh, that's where the house was, and that's where the ditch was, and so on. So let's make the most of it. Thank you.
I have about 2 pages of information here. And for those who are listening, if you want this information, then please get in touch. I'm happy to summarize it in a second, but Councillor Davies has her hand up. You're muted.
Sorry, it's good to know that there's still money available to sort the situation out in Trumpington. I have to say I have some concerns about the execution of public art in some of the urban fringe sites, and particularly I've been in contact with the public art officer about the deterioration in the state of one of the sculptures on the Nine Wells development, and how ambiguous it appears to be about whose responsibility it is to inspect that, maintain it, and now I'm afraid carry out quite substantial repairs on it. And it would be quite interesting, perhaps after this meeting, to log all the incidents that councillors across South area can identify where public art is not quite performing at the level it's intended to in order to fulfill the planning conditions, because I have a feeling that the Nine Wells one and the one that the public questioner tonight has raised about Clay Farm may not be isolated examples.
Okay, thank you very much. So should that lead to an action point? I mean, or is it just something we should keep in our minds, you know, to keep a record of issues like that?
I think it would be quite handy to make it an action point that we'll come back to. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, Councillor Slatter.
Yes, I was just going to say that I think it should definitely be an action point, or there's not much point in having these open fora. And we do need for some officer to step forward. Councillor Davis has made reference to the public art officer, who may well not have been the same one who was responsible for some of this stuff when it started, and they may have to go through the documents. But please, for them to inform themselves and come back to this meeting, ideally, and answer questions, because there's a lot of concern, as Councillor Davis says, about the form of the public art and its maintenance in the longer term. A lot of members of the public have put a lot of effort into this as consultees. They were involved, and that took a lot of their time. And I think sometimes they feel that time was not well spent. So yes, if we can speak to an officer about this in a future meeting, I think that would be very helpful. I don't know whether Councillor Davis is agreeing.
Yeah, okay. Let's see what we can do. I mean, in the short term, I can just briefly inform you that the sculpture is in question here is entitled The Bronze House, and it has been developed by artists Heather and Ivan Morrison, working with a steering group that was comprised of local residents, countryside properties, architects, landscape architects, and city council officers as observers. So it's certainly been a joint effort. And it reflects the site's history and especially archaeology. Apparently there were Bronze Age settlements and they had structures like that, or at least it's supposed to remind us of that. And if you want to know more, then there is more information available on this. Maybe at some point there will even be a presentation of the Trumpeting Local History Group or something like that.
There is indeed a very excellent section on it, on their local history, but it shouldn't be so difficult to find. But maybe that can be added to the notes, Councillor Houck. I'll get the right reference for you to add if anybody is interested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Dryden.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I know it's not my ward, but I have been asked a few times when you're talking public art. The flats opposite the leisure centre, I can't remember the name of the building now, they've got public art there, but public can't get to it to see it. It's always locked. So they want to know why they can't get up into that area to go there. It's not my area, but I said I'll try and find out the reason why the people can't go to the bit. I think older councillors might, been here a bit longer, might know the area where I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm apparently not old enough.
I suspect that those actually aren't in any of our wards at all. But maybe that's what Councillor Davies is about to say.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what I think Gary was first. Your hands up.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I'll defer to Councillor Davis because you might want to be answering this particular point. I've just got to flag up that the member of the public who asked the question about this has got a couple of supplementaries which I should mention before you move on, please.
Yes, please. Yeah, I thought good if Councillor Davies, would you like to respond to a previous point?
Yes, with regard to Councillor Dryden's question about the public art at the Mark, which is the sort of landmark building on the corner of Cherry Hinton Road and Hills Road, very long saga. Basically, the best understanding I have reached of that situation, having talked to variously the public art officer, planning enforcement, and the current management agent for that block, is that the public access conditions which were agreed for that public art were completely inappropriate for its site. They have had a lot of problems with rough sleepers up there. They've had a lot of problem with antisocial behavior up there, and it is, you know, directly adjacent to people's flats. And the developer and the managing agent have taken a pragmatic approach to restrict access. My question for planning enforcement and the public art officer is, does there not need to be some negotiation around that variation in the planning conditions? I have yet to receive a full statement about how that's going to play out. But your residents are right, Councillor Dryden, it is very difficult to gain access to that site.
Thank you very much. Okay, in that case, I think we are ready for the supplementary, or even supplementaries.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So this is from Della Wexler. One supplementary is, why isn't it council policy to label all public art installations with their title and the name of the artist or artists who made them when they are put up? And the second supplementary is, how are such works financed? Are they paid for out of our council tax? So those are the two which will go away and try and provide answers, and we can include those in the notes of this meeting.
Yes, I think that's a good idea, unless somebody would like to comment or answer already. Yeah, if that's not the case, then we will leave it for the minutes. Which, and I'm assuming that's it on the public or open forum, which means we can move on to agenda item 6, and that's policing and safer neighborhoods. And if I understood correctly, then Officer Jamal Ali will introduce the item. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Chair. I'm PCF Jamal Ali, based at Parkside. We cover the south sector of the city. I was not present at the last meeting, but I've been asked to cover, and I understand at the last meeting, 4 areas of concerns the committee recommended addressing, which I will update. We've given you the written format. Would you like summary, or shall I read out the response?
What's the difference in terms of time? So I think a summary would be good, unless somebody strongly objects. Yeah, please, summary, please.
So the first concern was the continued work to tackle vehicle-related antisocial behaviour and driving across the city. Objective was to reduce instances of antisocial driving across the south of the city. One of our student officers has taken on this as a project, part of their development, and they will attend various locations across the city, the south of the city, with special constables to enforce, to do speed checks. They will assess the various locations and recommend councils if there's any need for improvement of signage. Second point, our training team have been made aware of this as a concern, and where there's any opportunities, they will direct officers to work on these areas and target the different individual areas. We've also requested traffic officers to attend various locations, the troublesome areas, especially on Saturday in the leisure park area, but because of lack of officers, it was rejected. The current situation with this is the officers, as per normal, have powers to utilise and deal with behaviour. whilst on patrols, and they will enforce offences if obviously any speedings or any breaks the law. We would also remind yourselves that we have the community speed watch, basically where communities themselves can become involved in making the roads safer, and the lead officer will be Amanda Large from the speed watch. The second concern was continuing work across the city of south of the city with specific focus on Trumpton Ward. The objective was to reduce crime and antisocial behaviour in the south of the city committed by young people. So we've got 2 operations running involving young people, Op Guardian and Op Springboard. This relates to targeting key individuals from the area who are high harm individuals. I have been involved with colleagues where we've stopped searches for various individuals, found drugs, knife on them, and there are criminal investigations still ongoing, which has been quite positive. Also, we work part of the multi-agency peer group, working with other agencies to tackle the issues and share information with people, especially with the housings, about problem houses and individuals. The targeted patrols that we've seen the results in the Trumpton Pavilion, where officers conducted various patrols, we have seen a drop in calls to these locations. The current situation, we will continue to work with this area. That's an ongoing, and the lead officer will be Sergeant Randall Rossiter. The concern for 3, drug dealing, moped riding, and antisocial behaviour around Cherrington Rec and Cherrington Hall. The objective was to reduce instances of moped riding and antisocial behaviour at the above location. This location has seen an increase in patrols by officers, both in plain clothes and in high visibility. This was due to an operation going on about a male exposing themselves. I must say that during the patrols, none of the offence described above was observed. However, obviously, we will still continue to patrol the area. The current situation, officers will continue to respond to reports as reported. However, for the community, officers cannot chase mopeds because of safety reasons, but of course, it will be done if we do get registrations. Slow time based on inquiries of the registered owner and registered ways. If any recommendations, if the bikes are using the footpath, then there is possibilities for barriers and gates if the situation escalates. And finally, concern for bike theft in Nine Wells and Trumpton Ward. The police play an important role in cycle crime task group. The group works on 3 key areas: enforcement, education, and infrastructure. We take the primary role when it comes to enforcement. Our tactics are to target the key offenders and issue via the court criminal behaviour orders. Thus far, I've been told 7 CBOs, criminal behaviour orders against prolific offenders, have been issued. The crime will continue, cycle crime will continue to be our team priority, and it'll be across the city. The offenders, of course, move boundaries, so it will be wider city problem. We will, of course, continue with the criminal behaviour order to restrict on prolific offenders to reduce offending, and also promote registering bikes to. This is an ongoing to public, so bike register is one of our priorities to encourage people to register. And I've been involved where we've managed to reunite owners of the stolen bikes. That's it, Chair.
Thank you very much, PC Ali. It was a good summary. Obviously lots happening in the area. Are there any immediate questions? Okay, Councillor Slatter.
Thank you, Chair. And I think I'm speaking. I may have just preempted Councillor Levine on this. As he is new to the job, I've been unfortunately trying to help him out in some things, and he's also made me aware of some of the ways in which I could do a lot better as a local councillor in dealing with the questions that come to us by various means. If we have people coming and asking for help because they have drug dealing in the neighbourhood or other sorts of behaviour that clearly indicates some sort of criminal activity, it's very hard for us to know how to take that forward in a way that we can follow up. You can put in a report online and it sort of goes into the ether. And I know we've had emails trying to explain what happens to our online reports, but really we need to be standing beside the resident and talking to the police in some way. Now, Councillor Levine and I are planning to try the, what's it called, live chat, is it, Councillor Levine? Which has been recently advertised, and I'm happy to try that one out. But I'd really like Constable Jamal's advice on how we can do casework that involves the police and try and get answers and progress.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, very good point. And if we don't get enough reports, then obviously our priorities are directed in different ways. In terms of reporting, the obvious one is 101, and I know people complain that it takes long to answer. Online reports can be done, and also live chats. I work with Mr. Councillor Dryden quite closely, so sometimes, though it's not advisable, I get emails from him and issues that I can tackle. But certainly 101, live chat and online report, that's the best way. That's a formal channel that goes through. And of course, every day when we start a shift, we kind of check, do scanning as to the areas what's been going on. And without those reports formally logged through the control room, then not all of us will be aware.
Okay, thank you. I think it was Councillor Dryden and then Councillor Davies.
Well, thank you. Now, a lot of things have been said anyway, but I'd just like to say that PC Ali, we've been working very well now in Cherry Hinton, and I'd just like to say thank you to him and the force. It's been a lot better in the last year, and as he just said, now if you talk to him, he can give you some good advice on how to deal with matters more directly than we used to in the past. So I'd just like to sort of say thank you very much to the police.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Hello. I just wanted to make sure that in terms of the item on vehicle-related antisocial behaviour and driving, that you've got Babraham Park and Ride site on your radar. That does appear to be a particular focus for it in our area. And obviously that's a county council, a piece of county council estate. So I would hope that a combination of the police and the county council together could really deal with that quite effectively. So are you aware of its significance as a location for this?
Councillor Davies, I'm not. I think that'll be south of the city, so of the rural team. So not necessarily the city. My understanding is we have half of the Trampton Park and Ride that we share with the our staff of the city colleagues. So that's not our area. I'm believed to lead. That's what I believe.
So I understand that it may not be the city team, strictly speaking, but in functional terms, it is causing a nuisance to city residents, and it's presumably largely city residents who are going and causing the aggravation there. So do you just entirely leave that to the South Cambs policing team then?
Yes, and if we get directions, of course, now you've raised it, it's the first I've heard, if I'm honest, then we can of course look into it as well. Like I said, the Trampton Park and Ride is half of ours. Well, strictly, it's not city, but of course, the issues affects our residents locally. So we patrol and we take the lead role. So yeah, if you raise it, by all means, we can look into it as well. But of course, it's the South Cambs. Over to you.
Okay. I have already fed it into the system, which was why I thought I would just check, but thank you.
And Councillor Levine.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was just going to add for PC Ali briefly that I did have some experiences trying to report a constituent's concern. Making a report online worked, and that was logged. Trying to get through on 101 was extremely frustrating. I recommend you try it sometime. You'll probably see the issues very, very quickly. I won't go into the detail. Give it a try. I have also left some comments on. There's a very good form for reporting issues on the website, so I put some full comments there, which you might like to take a look at. In the meantime, my constituents' issues are being handled by environmental health, so it's running its course. But just a comment on the 101, which really I do have some issues with. But thank you for listening.
Okay, I can only add that I've actually had some furious emails about the Babraham Park and Ride as well from a resident who assured me that he had been in touch with the police about it already, although of course I don't know which department and who exactly. And that's been going back several months. So, I mean, maybe it would be a good starting point to establish really the ultimate procedure on how to report it in the most efficient way so that it's not getting lost somewhere in the various channels. Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, are there any further comments on this item, or any more questions here from either the public? I mean, if attending online can, of course, also raise their hand or type speak into the chat function, or are there any emails in the Democratic Services inbox?
Chair, there's no emails in the inbox, but I didn't know if the city officers, council officers wanted to add anything on what's been said.
Is that the case? In that case, they can also raise their hand. Yeah, okay.
Good
Officer
evening, everyone.
Crozier, yeah.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, my name's Marianne. I work in the community safety team, senior community safety officer, and we add some emerging issues to the bottom of the South Area Committee profile, which I'm sure you've all had a chance to read and look through. So I won't go through it in too much detail, but just really to kind of add to what PC Ali has been saying. You can see the work that my team has done in the area, but also just really to highlight our new peer groups and places meeting, which we held the first one just before the summer holidays, and it's we deal with community safety issues and antisocial behaviour issues, and we have been looking at young people, where there's been young people causing nuisance or concerns around young people's behaviour in the South Ward. Southern Ward, sorry, and the peer groups and places is a move towards looking at contextual safeguarding, because we often look at things from sort of a problem-solving perspective, which we absolutely need to do, and sometimes looking at enforcement and support. But contextual safeguarding is really looking at not just safeguarding within the sort of into families, but looking at why are young people going to particular areas, and what are the safeguarding concerns around, say, shops they might be hanging outside, or if they're going on to different parts of the city, why are they going there, what's drawing them to that, and looking at that as a real whole. So just kind of bringing in environmental sort of factors that we might not have done previously, and that's been a really positive piece of work, and it's something we're going to continue. So, and there's a link there to County Council has developed a sway around contextual safeguarding. It's relatively new, it's not a new concept, but something we're trying to sort of push out understanding more. So just really a kind of plea, if you're interested, have a look at the sway. It won't take too long, it's quite interesting, and as ever, if you have any concerns around antisocial behaviour or community safety issues, please don't hesitate to contact my team, and even if it's not something specifically that we can deal with, we can certainly point in the right direction, because I know it can be quite frustrating sometimes for our residents to find the right department to get to in the council when talking about these things. So if you want to contact the community safety team, we'd be really happy to have a chat and try and point anyone in the right direction, and to say to your residents, if they don't feel able to be named, as some people don't, they can report confidentially and anonymously. So just a bit of a plug for that as well this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any immediate comments on this item? Otherwise, would Officer Taiwo also add something to the discussion?
I think
I could
Michael's
say-
Michael's a recent addition to our team, so he's come along to see what the area committee is all about this evening. So
Absolutely welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, in that case, if there are no more comments on that, thank you very much to the whole team for the update and this interesting discussion. And we can then move on to our final item, and that is agenda item 7, update on Cambridge Biomedical Campus. And I'm very grateful to Christine Ann Rutter and Tony Taylorson, who've joined us tonight, to give us a little overview of what's happening. And we had a little conversation beforehand. So the idea, I think, is at this point, it's on a get-to-know basis. So we want to know what they can offer. They want to know what kind of questions we've got. And they already carelessly but very thankfully offered that potentially they could come again to join us again in the future if we have more specific questions and on any more specific need information on more specific topics. So let's get this started now. Thank you very much, Christine Ann, and well, I will leave it to you now.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me and providing a forum to discuss the Cambridge Biomedical Campus. I have a few slides that I'll share, go through for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then very happy to take questions. I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see that clearly?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I hope most of you on the call are familiar with the Cambridge Biomedical Campus. As you'll also probably be familiar, it's grown rapidly over the last number of years. And up until relatively recently, while there were many different committees that brought together the different occupiers on the campus, there was no sort of uniting body around that. And in response to both the need to move forward and progress things for the occupiers themselves on the campus, but also to respond to the questions and challenges we've had from local residents and local councillors about, well, how do we get in touch with the campus? Who do we talk to on the campus? There was an organisation called Cambridge Biomedical Campus formed. It was formed formally last July, and it is a joint organisation by the occupiers of the campus. So it includes the 3 hospitals: Cambridge University Hospital, Royal Papworth Hospital, Cambridge and Peterborough Foundation Trust, the University of Cambridge, the Laboratory of Molecular Biology, AstraZeneca, who will shortly be occupying their building on the campus, and also ABCAM. And then the university represents the interests of some of the other occupiers who are within their buildings, for example, Cancer Research UK. And I wear 2 hats in my day job. I lead this organisation, the Cambridge Biomedical Campus Limited. I also lead an organisation called Cambridge University Health Partners, which has a broader remit to think about the strategy for life sciences in our Cambridge ecosystem, which stretches across obviously much beyond the Cambridge Biomedical Campus to encompass many of the companies within our city, but also the Babraham Research, Wellcome Sanger, etc. But today I'm going to be focusing on my role and discussing the wearing my Cambridge Biomedical Campus hat. But we're happy to come back and talk about life sciences also in general, maybe at a future forum. So I think this is many of you, it is a thriving community, and it is that for those of you who are interested, there is a national life science strategy, and I think the Cambridge Biomedical Campus actually exemplifies in a physical sense what that strategy is around the collaboration between research, both academic and industrial, and healthcare to tackle the significant healthcare challenges facing us locally, but also more globally across the world. And that is what really unites all the occupiers of the Cambridge Biomedical Campus. And just a couple of examples, I mean, this is what it's all about, of some of the things that are happening on the campus recently and of today, and I think actually bring to life exactly what I've just been saying. There is a new clinical trial that is happening right now at Papworth, which is an innovative breath biopsy. It's been come out of local research, and it's been brought forward by a local company, Alstone Medical, who actually, have had various members of their founders treated and managed at the hospital. And that could revolutionise the diagnosis of lung cancer, as an example. And another one, which many of you might be familiar with, was the work of Cytosponge, which is a sponge on a string test that detect esophageal cancer. Again, really offering an opportunity to revolutionise the earlier diagnosis and then treatment of that condition, which is very hard to diagnose, and particularly coming out of COVID with the long backlog and wait lists for procedures. I can, there's many more examples, obviously, all the way to the founding of antibodies at the LMB, but I just wanted to bring an example of two more recent ones. And I like to start with those examples because that's really what the campus is about. It's about allowing the opportunity for the real needs of patients to be identified, research applied to how we tackle those, then bringing and testing those innovations with our patients and our communities, and ultimately benefiting a broader population, not just those who live and get treated on our campus, but also across the country and the world. I thought I'd just share a couple of things that's happening of interest at the moment and might be of interest to you. One is that there's been a lot of work done over the years of the healthcare outcomes that are a result of the hospitals we have on site and the discoveries that come out of our the science. But actually what has not been quantified before is some of the economic impact of that. And personally, I'm very passionate about this, about helping people understand that investing in health and science is very positive for all aspects of life, but also the economic and the social. And so for the first time, we had a go this year of trying to quantify that. This was work that was recently published just earlier this week. It was an independent report highlighting the contribution in terms of gross value add to the national economy, but also, validating and confirming the sort of the additional. So we've got around 16,000 full-time jobs directly employed on site. Now that, may have heard words about 20,000 before, that the difference there is the full-time nature of it and how we classify the jobs. But this is sort of economic. I'm not an economist, but this is the sort of official government way of counting statistics, is that's how it's cloned. But also then you get the additional jobs supported in the local economy in our region, but also beyond the region in terms of supply chains, etc., that support the site. But actually what this pales into, excuse my dog in the background, I'm sorry about that. What this pales into insignificance, and what I would love to see quantified in the future, is actually the benefits of health. So if you improve health outcomes, you support people to participate in society, and you reduce disability adjusted life years. Now that is spoken about in the report, and there's some lovely examples of the numbers and the potential impact, but that isn't actually quantified in pound figures this year, but maybe in future years. So that's just something of interest that you might not know about, but is actually hopefully of interest. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that actually some of you may know that this year marks 60 years since the Addenbrooke's and the Laboratory of Molecularology were officially opened and moved to the campus. We're doing a number of things to mark that. The first actually is a market stall event, and Tony will be able to say more about this, where later this month, where all the different occupiers of the campus will be talking about the work that they do, and this will be open to it will be in the Laboratory of Molecular Biology, and it will be open to the public. There are then a number of online and cameos and the exhibitions that we will be doing to celebrate the campus. One of those photographs probably being the picture on the left of the screen, which is actually the Royal Papworth. I didn't recognise it immediately, but that's what it represents. We continue to have events such as CBC on Tour, which every month highlights a piece of work on the campus, and different articles. So these are some of the things that are happening and might be of interest to yourselves or the residents that are on the call or that are represented. And again, happy to take more questions about those. The other thing that we were very grateful for input from people on this call and also residents was that there was a vision for the campus which was called 2020 that was developed earlier, and just going into the pandemic, it was realized that actually we needed to refresh that vision. Now, obviously, because of the many of our organizations were very tied up with the work of the pandemic, but then a vision was developed. Many of you inputted into that. We got a lot of feedback. The main feedback on the vision was the importance of focusing on the healthcare aspects of the campus and how we maintained and grow those, made them fit for the purpose for the future. We also got strong feedback in that consultation around the importance of making sure that the vision really embraced the concept of sustainability, not just of carbon, but of water and of energy. And we also got very strong feedback on the camp. It was in the vision already, but the importance of the campus integrating with its neighbourhood and with the residents around it. And so we've taken on board and we've fully appreciated that. So we're not going to reissue the vision as such, and instead what we're doing at the moment is taking this forward in terms of, well, what does that vision mean actually in terms of what's on the campus? So we're currently doing a piece of work to say, well, if these are the principles that we want in the vision about being connected and being a good neighbour and being a hub for collaboration of science, what does that actually mean in terms of what is needed where, how much of what is delivered where, how do we make sure that's delivered? Because the campus in the past has promised various things to various people, including communal facilities, and it's not been possible to deliver them. So what mechanisms can we make sure that any plans are actually deliverable? And partly that's why we're not just doing a spatial framework, we're doing an economic model of the campus to make sure what is proposed is economically viable. We are thinking about this for the land that is covered in the current local plan proposals for the CBC, but we're thinking about different scenarios depending on what space is available. The process so far has involved all the organisations on the campus, some local resident representatives, and the landowners. It's a campus that's quite complicated with many different landowners, and we welcome engagement from other groups. And I know particularly maybe tonight we can think about how councillors would like to input or be involved in that process. Happy to come back to this forum. I don't necessarily want to summon people to the campus. I'm quite keen that we participate in ways that you already meet. And the aim of this work is that we can continue to guide the development of the campus to facilitate the Vision 2050. And that is all I was going to say, and very happy to take questions. And then, as Councillor Hawke said, come back with more details of people who know if there are specific themes we want to pick up in future meetings.
Thank you very much, Christine Ann. That was nice. Nice to introduce you to the South Area Committee meeting. I mean, I'm aware there are questions in the chat as well, but I think Councillor Dryden had his hand up first.
Yeah, thank you again, Chair. Are you involved with any talks with the new railway station? Are you involved with that? And if so, do you have any information?
So how I'm involved, so I understand that the railway station is progressing. What we do as CBC is try and make sure that we speak to Network Rail with one voice. So there is a transport group, there's a transport committee that has representatives of the transport, and one of the things that we are starting to talk a lot about is how the interface of the station works with the rest of the campus, so how people move around when the station comes forward.
Okay, that's it. Is at the moment. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Is there a particular question? I mean, I can take it away and come back if there's a particular question you have, like when or what's the particular concern, Councillor Dryden?
Just rumours about the size of the station and when it's going to actually happen, because there is rumours going around it might be prolonged a bit further along the line now as because of problems with Network Rail.
I don't know. I've been promised it for sort of 24, 25, and I'm very much hoping it's going to come because it's very important for sustainable transport. But you may know more than I do.
I remember Vision 2022, so when that first came in 20 odd years ago. But I just wanted just feedback to.
I have nothing particular.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Slatter.
On that note, Councillor Dryden, I was interested to hear that they're planning to start work in February, but my husband, who's been very much involved in the consultation in relation to Hobson's Brook, because they have got to sort out some farm bridges and things, was very complimentary about Network Rail and their engagement. So I would recommend you just write to them, and if you haven't got an email address, I'll get one from Howard and pass it on to you. But do email me, Councillor Dryden, because I might well forget by the end of this meeting. But I think they are pretty open about their plans now, because obviously we're not talking East West Rail here, we're talking about the Cambridge South Station, I take it. Yes? Yeah, fine, okay.
Okay, if there are no more questions from the live audience, there are 3 questions in the chat submitted by Anthony Carpen, who is also actively live tweeting this meeting and has already told people that you've agreed to come back in future meetings and encouraged our audience to come up with clever questions. So I think that's a good thing. Can you see the questions in the chat? I'm happy to read them, but I mean, it might be easier if you can also read them. So number 1, I think they're all related to the connection of the CBC to the local neighborhoods and the community. So investment in leisure facilities is number 1.
I've mislaid the chat. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, what significant investment will you make in leisure facilities that serve not just the campus, but the neighboring residential areas and the wider south of the city and neighboring villages?
So in terms of, if you look at the members of the CBC currently, which are the hospitals and the university and the laboratory of molecular biology, there isn't a sort of pot of money to one of the challenges is that there is not to invest in necessarily leisure facilities. What we are trying to do very strongly is to identify what leisure facilities are required on the campus and how much. I think our vision would be that they are available for the not just for the campus but for the neighbouring communities. I said part of our vision is it's an integral part of the local neighbourhoods. That's definitely part of our vision. And the question is, how do we get those delivered? And very specifically, how do we make sure that we don't have further development of the campus without those type of facilities to serve both neighbourhoods and also current occupiers of the campus coming forward?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Slater, is your hand still up from last time? So
the second question, which I can see and I can carry on, is what conversations will we be having with Cambridge Connect about developing a light rail line for your staff? I think we're very happy to talk to everybody about different transport solutions. We've just, you will see that a number of months ago, the MP, Anthony Brown, convened a transport summit for the Cambridge Biomedical Campus, which highlighted the challenges of transportation to the site and encouraged all the different parties that were involved, Network Rail, the buses, County Council, City Council, GCP, the combined authority, to work together to look at the transport needs for the site. As a result of that, the Greater Cambridge Partnership, GCP, has done some initial work on that, and they've published what they are calling the needs assessment of the campus, and they have forecast forward what they believe the transport needs are of the campus and how the different current schemes meet those needs. And there is still a gap. So then we are now looking to work with everybody to say, how is that gap going to get closed? I think what is very important for my occupiers is having sustainable, reliable, safe modes of transport to the site. Obviously, there's some quite, we have large numbers, as you've seen from that economic report, people travelling to the site, not just staff, but also patients. I think if you look at the trip numbers prior to COVID, you were looking at about 28,000 trips per day, staff and patients. And so finding ways that those can be made in a safe and reliable way is a really important priority for us. And I meet regularly with different people bringing forward different schemes, but some of the most, that is why we are supportive of things like the CSEP proposal, which will support large numbers of our staffs accessing our site from the south of the city. The third question is, what conversations will you be having to develop a new adult education college for the south of the city? I haven't come across, so I can't commit to any comment about a new adult education college. What I can say in my role, this is not my CBC role, but in my CUHP role, I've been doing a lot of work with the higher education facilities around the city, but also the north, more broadly up into Peterborough, convened by Anglia Ruskin University. And you are right that there is both, as you've put in your question, a lot of staff shortages, particularly at entry-level positions, and also this opportunity to retrain adults. So that has been flagged, and that's not just limited to the Cambridge Biomedical Campus, actually. That is a challenge that is felt by life science organisations across our region. And so I am looking to understand what can be done to help support and fill that gap. But that is very much wearing my CUHP hat as opposed to the CBC hat. The CBC hat at the moment is very much concerned with the physical development of the campus. I think those are the three questions in the chat.
Yes, I'm just actually also checking on Twitter whether it's getting there, the response. Okay, thank you very much. I think, yeah, it's open for comments or questions now. If there's anything in the audience that's not clear yet. If that is not the case, if there are no more questions, also not in the Councillor Slatter.
Just a quick one, Christine-Anne, and I'm very glad. I welcome the fact you've been so responsive for being nagged and even harassed by me in the months that have been past. Could I ask where I might look for a plan of the campus? A nice, clear plan. This is partly because whenever my back's turned, there's a new bit, and so I can easily get lost. But it would be such a useful thing. When you look on, I believe, unless you've added it since, there's lots of lovely photos and an aerial view as we saw, but just an ordinary plan so we knew which bits we're looking at and how to get round them and between them. That sort of thing would be immensely useful, and I'm glad to see Mr. Taylorson nodding a bit there. So I'm sure you have it, that you're using it all the time on estates.
Well, the amazing thing is actually, sorry, Councillor Sutter, I didn't mean to interrupt. The amazing thing is actually it was very hard, and this is one of the things about the campus. CUH has a plan of their buildings and estate, and the university has a bit for theirs, and so it's actually been quite hard. We actually had to commission a very small piece of work just to understand who owned all the different bits of land. So we can I would say two things. A, we can share with you the plan that we currently have. Obviously the master planning work that we're going to do is our future plan. The one piece of things we are looking to do as a campus though, which I think will be very supported by our occupiers, but also is a wayfinding, a piece of work on wayfinding. So we've identified the funds to take that forward. That was scoped out earlier last year in consultation, and now we are looking to so that will actually then have the plan. It will have signage integral for the campus once you arrive on it. So we'll share with you what we have at the moment, and please, we hope that it's going to improve.
Brilliant, and a bit on the public art to take up a theme that we had earlier.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, Officer Clift.
Thanks, Chair. I've just had a follow-up from Mr. Carpen, if that's okay.
Of course.
So, just bear with me while I'm going on to another screen. Would you mind expanding a bit on the Transport Committee that you referred to? You said about a committee meeting with Cambridge Connect, Light Rail, the Cambridge Area Bus Campaign, CamCycle, and Living Streets, brackets pedestrians. Does that make sense?
Tony, do you want to respond?
Yeah, I was going to say, if it helps in any way, there are a number of work streams across the campus. There is travel and transport, which you referred to. There is security, it's amenities, construction, and communications that I chair. Now, I'm 100% sure that CamCycle has had conversations with the CBC travel and transport work stream. I'm not sure about those other groups. I would have to check on that. I suspect that they would have had conversations because the travel and transport work stream are all of the heads, the managers from the organisations who are whose role it is to look after travel and transport for their organisation. But I would have to check if those organisations had if the work stream has had those discussions with those groups that Anthony Carpen's mentioned. We can happily do that and send the information back across, or I can supply it on Twitter as well, because I know that he's been commenting on that as well, so happy to reply to him there too.
Thank you very much. Is that everything from both the mailbox and our online audience here?
Can I just ask, if I might ask a question of yourself, or not for but coming back, is this question of how people would like to be engaged, particularly with, let's say, the spatial framework that is coming out. We're happy to arrange separate sessions, particularly for councillors. As I said, we have some of the residents groups represented and arrange separate briefings for them. And I'm very happy to come back to this group with more details as they emerge, but also welcome other ways for both public and the elected representative to get involved.
I think we will definitely take you up on your offer to join us again. I don't know if anyone has any suggestions for additional meetings or events. Okay, Officer Clift.
Chair, if it helps, I think I'll take it away to the senior officers of the council, and that may help move things along.
Yeah, I think we have good. Just sorry to add, we have arranged, Tony, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, we've engaged with the senior officers, so there's a way that they can regularly meet with us. So this would be a particular question for the elected representatives.
Thank you very much. Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Chair. It's really good to see the campus here this evening. As you know, this is a relationship which I think is fundamental, certainly to the functioning of my neighbourhood. It's great to hear that you're in regular contact with officers at a relatively senior level. I would really welcome engagement with elected members as well, because I do think we have a different role to play in maintaining the dialogue with the campus and being able to take stuff back to residents. I know the residents who've been working on the spatial framework with you have at times been working in a sort of atmosphere of confidence and not being able to necessarily share the conversations that have been going on very widely. And my objective is always to get as much transparency as possible into the process. So if you can find a way to invite councillors into that, I think that would be extremely valuable.
Thank you.
Yes. If there are no further questions or comments, then I think we can thank Kristen, Anne and Tony for appearing on our show tonight. And for their offer to come back in the future. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of this meeting. That only leaves me to inform you that the next South Area Committee meeting will be taking place on the 28th of November this year. And we look forward to seeing you then. And until then, well, have a good time. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Bye-bye.